Hello there, my fellow artists and friends. Welcome back, of course, to my channel here. Hello, if you're new, I'm Carrie Lynn M, a fellow artist and painter, probably a lot like you probably are. And today's topic, I want to talk to you about how to actually, physically go about making or taking custom orders for your artwork. This goes for whether you're a painter, like I am a lot of times for painting and drawing and that sort of thing. People might want to make a custom order for like a portrait of themselves or like a pet portrait or something. Or maybe custom orders for like if you're like someone that works with wood, if you make furniture, different crafty things, sculpture, ceramics. I mean, the list is literally endless, right? Of things we can make out of art. Pretty much any type of art you might work with can be custom ordered by different customers. So I want to go over a couple of different steps / tips, I guess, of again, some ways that you can physically go about taking, making, and physically creating custom orders for your customers. Because guess what? Custom is in the word customer. So my number one ultimate first tip before you even start thinking, I mean, if you're here, you're probably already thinking about taking custom orders, but before you really start putting anything else into action, make sure you're really, pun intended, brushed up on your skills, on your art skills, whatever method of art you're working with. I'm going to be talking a lot about painting today just because that's what I do. And I know that's what a lot of my followers like to do as well. But of course, like I said, this can apply to like drawing, sculpture, ceramics, anything. Because fine arts itself, which is all of these things that we do that would be, I guess, in an art museum, right? You go into an art museum, there might be a section for paintings, there might be a section for mixed media, collage, etc., right? All of these different types of mediums that you might work with and stuff, these are what encompasses fine arts, especially visual arts. Now, the thing with fine arts, visual arts, it's a balancing act kind of between our creativity. I mean, it's a lot of creativity, right? But there's also a piece of technicality in it, technique. Because you can do, like if you're making a vase or something, there's probably a billion different ways you can decorate a vase, right? But there's really only a few ways to make a vase that is actually functional, that would actually like hold water and flowers if you put them in there, right? So that's just an example. With paintings, we have a little bit more freedom. There's different styles of painting we can work in and stuff, different types of paint, all the things. But when it comes down to it, painting and other pieces, other types of fine art are actually really technical. There's a lot of technique that goes into creating really high quality art. So number one, always make sure you hone and, like I said, brush up on your techniques. And if you are someone who is a painter like me, and if you're looking for more advice, different tips, different ways to paint, just help practicing your painting in general, make sure as always you check out my Canvas Academy learning platform, where I teach a ton of painting classes tailoring to everyone from the beginner level to the more advanced and even professional level. Especially if you're looking to one day do custom portraits for someone, I have a whole course designed for almost complete beginners to just get started into learning how you can physically paint a portrait, whether you've done it before or you've never even attempted. Now, like I said, whatever art medium you're going with, you're going to want to practice and really hone in on your technique skills, because when you're doing custom work for someone, there's really not a whole lot of room for error. So you really want to be practiced, be rehearsed, and ready when you actually do start taking custom orders. Now, the second step / tip, I guess, that I want to go over is make sure you set up a way for you to physically obtain custom orders. Now, this part is a little bit more, I don't want to say technical again, but it is very technology based almost, if you will. Unless you're going to just take, and this is an option if you want to take orders in person, if you want to, say, create business cards and stuff, that is one way to execute this tip, right? You're making a way that people can contact you, can set up a way to see you face to face, and get a custom order put in that way. That is definitely a way that you can go about doing this. However, in this day and age, I very highly recommend that artists offer custom orders online, because this is going to help you reach so many more customers in so many different states, territories, countries all over the globe. Because in today's day and age, online shopping is really, it's the beast, right? It is where everybody is buying everything online, again, from all over the world. So this is going to open up a huge customer base for you that you might not have in just your locality. Now, under this tip, there's a couple of different ways, and I discussed this in my How to Start Selling Your Art Online for Beginners, that video, which of course I'll link above and below here. But you really need to set up some sort of shop interface for you to physically take custom orders on. And it doesn't matter what type of platform you go with, whether you want to have a personal website or you want to go with an existing platform for shopping, like say Etsy or eBay. But from experience, I can say that I take majority or pretty much almost all of my custom orders through my Etsy shop. So I can show you a little bit of an example of how I would go about doing this and how I've done this in the past with taking custom orders. Depending on what type of item you are customizing, it might just be something as simple as somebody's name, right? You just want to engrave or paint or write someone's name on a piece that you may have already made. Or it might be a little bit more complex, as to say you want to offer portraits, or like I said before, pet portraits that can be custom tailored to, like say, a photo that someone gives you. Well, you have to give customers a way to physically hand over that photo to you. And so my best advice to do this is to actually offer a space, whether again you're selling things on a website, your own personal website, or like a different platform like Etsy, like here. Give the customers clear, easy to read directions on how to give you the information that you're going to need to customize that order. For example, like here on Etsy, the way I take custom pet portrait orders is that I make sure that buyers are aware that they have to send me a clear photo in messages. Or again, if you're selling something that say you just want to have customizable messages on, or maybe just add a name or something, that sort of simple written personalization, you can provide just a simple box that people can write their personalization message in. Now, along with this, of course, on a platform like Etsy, there's already the option available for people to contact you if they have questions, concerns about custom orders. Now, if you're doing things on a personal website, if you're building your own website from the ground up, make sure that you have a contact email that people can reach you at, just to make the process go a lot smoother with your custom orders. Now, another tip I have for you when you're setting up the availability to take custom orders, make sure that you tell customers a clear, concise time frame that they can expect to get their order to them. For example, if you know it's going to take you up to a week to paint somebody's portrait after you receive a custom order, make sure you include that in, say, your product description and stuff. And then along with that, you'll also have to include, that's your processing time, right? That's how long it's going to take you to actually make the item. Make sure on top of that, you also include how long it's going to take for that item to ship to your buyers. Now, you can check around with different postal carriers and stuff. I typically use the US Post Office for just about the fastest and the cheapest shipping option that I can get in my area. And with this option, most buyers, at least in my country, in the US, can expect to get their order 2 to 5 days after I ship it out. So whatever my processing time is for creating an item, say it's 1 week, then I would also add 2 to 5 business days on top of that. This does not include weekends, or at least not Sundays with the post office, because the post office is closed on Sundays, but they are open on Saturdays. So again, it might take a little bit of calculating, but make sure you give buyers a clear timeline that they can expect to receive their item after they click purchase on it. Now, my next tip to you, this may not always apply to, like, if you're taking custom orders through a platform like Etsy or eBay or something else. But if you're doing things, if you're selling custom orders face-to-face, like in person or on a personal website, I very highly recommend that you receive your payment upfront, or at least a certain percentage of what it's going to cost for the total purchase. Because this way you don't have to worry about people ordering an item, you sending it to them, you expecting to get the payment within a day or two, and then never getting it, right? We want to avoid those issues as much as possible, so I very highly recommend you take at least, it doesn't have to be the full order amount if you don't want to right up front, but I would say take at least a percentage of the total order value first before you expect to receive the full payment, because some artists do like to send a picture of like a proof to the buyer once they've gotten, you know, the order, what they feel is complete, and then get some feedback from the customer before they expect a full payment on the item. But in any case, I do recommend you take at least a little bit of a payment up front, just to at least cover you for your time in case the buyer kind of decides to, you know, up and leave, even if you do send them a proof later and expect full payment. That way you're not completely high and dry and out of all of the money for all of the time you just put into that order, right? Another tip I have for you when it comes to custom orders, you guys, you have to remember that this is a very personalized experience for buyers. This item is going to be custom made for one buyer. You're not going to be able to resell it later if the buyer does decide that they don't want it. So be prepared that that may happen. And along with this, make sure you're prepared to maybe put in a little bit extra time for this order, because your buyer might want something a little bit specific that you haven't exactly specified in before. I mean, it's not like if you're like a drawing artist, if you're a sketch artist, somebody comes to you with, oh, I want this portrait done, but I want it done in full color and full paint, and you've never done that before. That's probably an order that you probably don't want to accept, at least not right away, until you hone those skills. Remember that first step we talked about? But you should also remember that every order is going to be different, and it's going to be unlike the last, which is inevitably going to take you more time to work on it. Because, for example, as a portrait artist, as I do other people's portraits quite frequently, every person's face is different, right? I'm not going to paint the same person twice unless they ask for it more than once. So it's not like I'm creating the exact same painting over and over again when I take custom orders. Each one is going to be a little bit different. The photos, sometimes they're not super duper clear, so sometimes that makes it a little bit more challenging to work with. But these are just things that you need to be, a little bit prepared for if you are willing and ready to take on custom orders. And if you're like, I don't know if I'm super duper skilled enough yet to do this, then just take a break, step back, and again, go back to this first step and start practicing your skills some more before you take that all on. Now, my second to last tip I have for you is do not get stressed out by this process, and also be aware that this can become a stressful process. Creating custom orders, it can be a lot of pressure because this one customer wants this one item from you, and it's like all of a sudden that pressure's on your shoulders to, okay, I've got to make this item, and I gave them this time frame to do it in, so this is the time frame I have to complete it in. And it can start to feel kind of overwhelming when you do that, so just keep that in mind. If you're someone that maybe doesn't work super well under pressure, again, take a lot of time to practice your skills so that you can build up the confidence to take on custom orders, because it can be a lot of expectations put on you from the buyer and probably from yourself too, right? But also don't stress about it, because the more you stress about it, and I know it's really hard, you guys, I do this all the time. When I'm doing a custom order for someone, it's like that's my top priority until I get it done, until I get it finished, because I know that customer is counting on me, right? They're counting on me to do this. But you also need to sometimes take a breath, step back, then take a breath, take a couple of breaths really, and just relax and don't stress too much about it, because the more you stress about it, the harder it's going to be for you to focus and to actually, do that proper technique like you already learned how to do, right? Now, my last step / again tip for you is all about how do you deal with maybe getting a negative feedback, negative reaction to a custom order that you have already made for someone. Now, this is really, really tricky to work with, and I'm thinking we might also do a separate video on just dealing with negative critiques, negative customers, etc. with your artwork. But I will say, as an artist, I have not personally had a negative critique from a custom order before. I've had only positive experiences, but negative experiences can and do happen. However, don't let it deter you from doing more custom orders. If a customer is not satisfied, say, with the final product that you have already shipped them, it is best to kind of work out a bit of a resolution between you and the customer, because even if your work is like 100% great, ultimately the customer, you know what they say, you guys, the customer's not always right, but as an artist, you have to be your own customer service representative. So it really helps to know how to work out and resolve issues with potential customers with potential custom orders. So say you have already shipped an item to a customer and they received it and they just don't like it. They want a refund for the product. Well, there are a couple of different things that you could do. One of these is to go on ahead and give them a full refund. However, there are other ways to resolve things. For example, if there's just one thing, if the customer is like, well, the nose isn't right on this portrait, you could ask if they would be willing to take the painting and send it back to you for revisions that you then send back to them. Of course, that's going to cost you some more on shipping. However, that's a little bit better than just giving a full refund. Plus, you might get a happier customer in the end. Another thing you can do, and I've done this with orders, not custom orders, but just regular orders in general before, is you can try to negotiate like a refund somewhere in the middle. Not a full, complete refund, but just like kind of like a discount, if you will. You'll give them a discount of like 20% of their money back or something for it. Now that's if you already sent an item to a customer and they already received it and they're not happy with it. Those are just some ways that you can go about trying to make it right. Now it's a little bit easier if you say you do send picture proofs to a customer before you send it. That's kind of ideal. In an ideal world, every customer will probably approve the fine art piece that you create them before you send it to them. I know in some cases you may not get a response from a customer or, so on and so forth. They already paid. You're like, well, might as well ship it, right? But if you get a response to a proof that is quite negative, try to take, I know it's really hard for us as artists, I know this especially, to take a little bit of criticism as an artist, but just try to take their critiques into detail. If they're being very, very vague about what, though I don't like this painting, ask them very specifically if there's areas that you can fix before you, just give up and just cancel the order completely. Because again, you already worked on this piece so far, so try to work out with the customer. I think that's the main headline of this whole tip. Just work things out with the customer. Anytime something negative is going on, try to come to resolve somewhere in the middle. Just try to meet them halfway. Try to be as nice and respectful as you can. Because remember, you are still representing yourself as a professional, as an artist professional. So it's not really the best to come back and be, kind of rude and inconsiderate. Well, you don't know what art is to your customers. You don't really want to put them off like that. And again, that's why proofs can be kind of nice, because then you can revise things until you get the final A-OK, yes, thumbs up from your customer, that then you can ship it to them. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was kind of a quick fire tips and tricks video for all you fellow artists out there. But as always, I hope this really, really helped you. And if you guys are looking more to hone your painting skills, your painting techniques, of course, be sure to check out my Canvas Academy learning platform. And aside from that, I will see you on our next painting tips and tricks video. So until then, my fellow artists,